fade out. That was really nice. So thank you everybody, thank you all of you for coming here today. I think we have a great lineup of acts coming up. I am not a musical person, but what I am going to do is just give you a little bit of my thoughts about the reason that we're here, and also give you a few of my poems that perhaps you can take with you when we leave this night. So the first thing I am going to say is, although we're here to have fun, I think it's important for us not to forget what this night is about, which is that we're all here to see a free Palestine. And I think that's quite important, so whenever we come to events like this, I think it should be at the forefront of us. It's not just for our own community, we are speaking on behalf of a people that perhaps cannot speak for themselves at the moment, or perhaps their voices are being drowned out. So when I say something like Free Palestine, it's not something that I'm saying as a slogan, it's not something that I'm using just as a hashtag, it's not something that I'm saying as a trend, it's something that I'm actually saying from my heart, and it's something that I'm saying, as I said, for people that perhaps are not being able to say it for themselves, or perhaps the voices that are drowned out. So when I do say Free Palestine, I think it's all important for us to say it and mean it with that meaning. It's not just a generic statement. I was going to show you a picture, but unfortunately I left that picture at home, and that picture is of me when I first started writing. It must have been 15 or 16 years ago now, and I'm at my desk and there's a big my notebook is full of Palestine flags, and I wanted to say that even back then I was thinking about this idea of Palestine and Gaza and the West Bank particularly, and I started reading books to really understand the process of how the Israel and Palestine conflict came. And so it took a long time for me to actually come to that understanding of what happened there. So I want to say that when I did find out about the Palestinians, I started writing about it at the same time. So one of the first things that I ever did was try to write a poem about Palestine. The first story that I ever tried to write was also a story about Palestine, but I realized that my knowledge and my words weren't enough. And so I joined something called Amnesty International. I don't know if anybody knows this. And I really tried to put my voice forward there, but I really didn't feel that I was making a big impact. So then I started going to events like protests, and I started going to university campuses, and I made an infographic that I shared around my university. And I remember at that time I had a lot of knowledge about this kind of the conflict, and especially from reading books like this, which were like direct voices from people from Palestine telling their own stories. And so I attended protests, I wrote letters to politicians, but you know, I tell you all of that just to say that Palestine was a big part of my life then. But somewhere along the line, I don't know, I'll tell you what I told my friend, is that in my art, in my writing, I slowly became a coward. I started opting to write this cryptic, generic kind of poetry that didn't really say anything, but also, maybe it was a dual thing that I didn't really know what to say for the people of Palestine. And so I do understand that if some people are not speaking about Palestine and about the situation, I do understand that where they are coming from, maybe they want to speak about it, maybe they don't have the knowledge or they don't have the words. So, you know, I'm ashamed at that time for not using my voice like I should have. So this is the first poem I will read to you. It's only a short poem, and it's one of the ones that I wrote recently on October the 7th. So it's only one sentence, so I think every word matters. It's in a Japanese form called a tanka, and a tanka is written in 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, and it's usually used to give a beautiful image to people, a picture of nature or a reflective piece of nature. But this is, peace comes like a bird, too late in the day to feast on worms from the dead. And it's only a small sentence, but one reason that I wrote that is to say that I hope that the peace that I hope will come doesn't come too late, and it doesn't come to a people that have been... Can you read it again? Yeah, of course. It says, peace comes like a bird, too late in the day, only to feast on worms from the dead. So it's just about, having that peace come too late, because peace might happen, but it might be way too far, gone past what we can come to a moment of a reconciliation or something. Okay, the peace has come, but look how much devastation and loss has happened in that meantime. So I want to tell you a few stories, and I'm going to interspace it with some poetry that I think is quite relevant. So I met somebody from Gaza recently. We had a community assembly, and he told me 30 members of his family had died. 30. For me, if 30 members of my family died, I don't think I would have the mental clarity to even speak about it. I don't think I would be able to come out of my house. I don't think I would be able to do anything. 30 members, that's more than the people that are sat in this room. It's a lot of people. And they are actual people with lives, with blood running through their hearts. And what he said to me actually broke my heart, but I made sure to stand with him and to make sure that he was heard and listened to him. And when he did finish speaking to me, I said to him one thing, which I didn't really know I was going to say, and I said, you know what, I am you. The plight of the Palestinians is my plight. I cannot stand here and listen to you and say that this is not part of my cause as well. It's something that I need to invest in. So I started. He helped me, and we had a moment. And I thought, you know what, I am going to start using my voice again for the plight of the Palestinians. So I started doing that. And we've all stayed vigilant in our own ways. Some people have gone to protest. I think 1 million people marched in London. There's one every Saturday over here. Some people wrote poems, reported. Lots of people on Instagram share things. But, from looking at what everybody is saying at the moment, we know that one thing, that the thing that is happening in Gaza is probably the most pressing issue in the world right now, because it is happening in front of our eyes, and we can see a genocide happening. And, there's no doubt there's a big demand for a ceasefire, and there's no doubt that Israel is a perpetrator of this genocide. So like I'm speaking today, I want you all to, at some point, try to vocalize your thoughts in whatever way you can, and just give a small word for the Palestinians. So I wrote this poem for Gaza. The title is Peace Comes from a Word. Shalom, salam. So the definition of salam in Arabic is peace. The definition of shalom in Hebrew is peace. And that's why I wrote it. Peace comes from this word. Conflict comes like a fist, a blow from someone that you know, a friend, family, enemy. War comes like a hammer, flattening flowers, walls and nails into coffin. Genocide comes like a gas chamber, a cyclone of Zyklon B and a division of soldiers in an outfit. Maybe that point was a little bit harsh by drawing that comparison to the Holocaust, but I think it's quite pertinent that we take the history that we have and show the people into the world, like, this has happened before, it can happen again, and we shouldn't just shy away from that history. And so, Palestine and Gaza are the biggest open prisons in the world. They don't like us to say that, but if they don't like us to say that, we can say that they're the biggest crime scenes in the world. We can see the crimes happening, crimes against humanity. And you can see it. Just turn on any of your news channels, turn on social media channels, watch videos, YouTube, and it's all there. And if we can see it, so can the powers that be. And it's our job, our responsibility to make sure that these people that are in power are being held accountable. I want to tell you a story. Recently, a good friend of mine went to Hiroshima, and she's Japanese. She's half Scottish and half Japanese. And while she was there, she said something to me. She said, out of all the people that I could think of, Ajaz, I called you. Please, can you help me make a prayer for the dead here? And that's what I did. I made a prayer for the dead of people that I didn't know. And it actually made me think about the people of Gaza. And I was like, I hope a friend of mine doesn't go to Gaza in the next 10 or 15 years' time and ask you for the same thing. Please, can you help me make a mass prayer at these mass graves? Because, the reason I bring that comparison again and to the World War II is because they say, I don't know the exact figure, they say that something like 5 times the amount of bombs that have been dropped on Gaza is 5 times the amount that has been dropped on Hiroshima. That's quite an astounding figure when you look at the size of Gaza. They say that the death toll, I don't like that word, death toll, that phrase. A toll is something that you pass, or count. It stands at 37,000, but actually there was a recent study done by someone called The Lancet, which was reported in Al Jazeera, and it said that the actual death count is up to 180,000 people. 37,000 people is the size of Nelson. 180,000 people is Burnley and Pendle put together. That's a lot of people. That's not just people like us in the room, artists. That's teachers, doctors, nurses, bus drivers, children, babies. Imagine all of these people dead. I don't want to keep giving you these horrible thoughts, but I think it's important that we actually do think about it. It's a real world issue. So I'm going to tell you a couple more stories, but I do want to give you some poems as well. I'll give you this one poem. I wrote it about a year ago. Actually, I wrote it just November last year. It's part of a larger poem. It's a bit of a rap, so wake up, breathe, think, get up, move, revolt before you sleep in your casket. Cast your mind back to Operation Cast Lead. Just how many innocents did Israel cast dead? Don't look at the TV for news because it's factless. The BBC never referred to Palestine, not even in the past tense. Gaza Strip's been under unrelentless attack since 1948, and all of this lacks sense. Moving on to Operation Pillar of Cloud, incendiaries burning babies alive, F-16s deployed to bomb crowd. How can humanity sit back and let this be allowed? So know this, no, I won't subdue my humanity when there's a brainwashed army committing pure savagery, while the nation spoon-fed pop propaganda which loosely captures the anarchy of Palestinian men, women and children in the midst of this tragedy. Can't believe you accept all this rubbish and lies and rubble of lost lives. They got you. They got us trapped with their repressive social apparatus. Big brother keep at us. The poem carries on, but it's a very much an angry poem about the state of politics. So I'm going to tell you a couple more stories. A couple of weeks ago, I woke up in the morning because one of my neighbours was having a knock at the door. And I woke up and it was his sons trying to get into his house. I went out and I inquired. I said, is everything all right? They were like, we haven't spoken to our father in 3 days and we really want to get into the house. And their father was quite elderly. And so I looked to scout to the house and I saw his conservatory window was open. And I decided, I said, look, I can probably climb through that window. Would you like me to climb in and get access to the house? I said, yes. So I climbed in and I opened the door for them. They went in, and I don't want to obviously know what they all found, And it's quite a devastating moment for them. I watched them wail, I watched them cry, I watched them come out of the house and not know, it's like, because it's a big changing moment for their lives. A week later, I went to his funeral. About a week after that, another neighbour on the other side of my also passed away, and it was quite, in that first moment when John passed away, one of my neighbours, it was quite devastating. And when the second neighbour in our street passed away, our whole street was just in despair. It's like, wow, 2 neighbours in the space of 1 month have passed away. And just yesterday, one of my mum's best friends who we grew up with, our neighbour when we grew up in Nelson, also passed away. And I watched my mum break down and cry. And these are just singular deaths. I'm just saying that, just to bring it back home. My family, their whole life has changed in the space of 1 month, just by having 3 people that are connected to them die in some way, and they actually died. They weren't murdered, they weren't bombed, they weren't expelled from their home, they died. So, and I'm going to bring it back to that idea of, when I'm not going to go back to that idea of World War II. But I wrote this another poem, and it's called Free Palestine is not just a slogan. Freedom is difference. Freedom is a word said. Freedom is a word rejected. Freedom is a pad and pen. Freedom is a right misread. Freedom is a woman underdressed. Freedom is a loaded threat. Freedom is a border overstepped. Freedom is a firing gun. Freedom is a drone overhead. Freedom is a button dead pressed. Freedom is a civilization dead. Freedom has some kind of foreign scent. And I wrote that just to put that idea of the contrasting idea of what's. So, I have started speaking out and I've started to use my voice to speak about the Palestinian people. And it's hard to find that balance to go on and on about this and drawn on to people, because you want people to listen to you, and the way that people listen to you is finding a balance. I'm just going to take a small moment and just talk about somebody else. One of the reasons that I started speaking about Palestine again. Does anybody know the artist Loki? Yeah? Loki for me is a big influence, and for one reason only. I think Loki is one of the smartest, creative and academic voices that we have, and he marries these two together in such a deep way that he's able to affect a lot of people, not just by making music and rapping these lyrics, but by saying something. I'm going to tell you a small story about Loki. I've seen him live 3 or 4 times, and every time he's always pushed this, Palestinian, these matters, whatever happening, any conflict in the world, he's always at the forefront. Loki speaks to power so much that a few years ago, he lived in the city of Westminster, and the government didn't like him because he was speaking out against the government. They raided his house, and they took all of his music, his writing, his Arabic writing, and they banned him from the city of Westminster, and they really, really tore his life apart. And from that moment, he stopped making music and decided, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the academic side and really challenge the power. And I saw Loki do it, and I was like, do you know what? Not to say that I want to emulate exactly what he did, because he's way beyond me, but I'm thinking, look, if Loki can do it, and he influenced me, I hope that my words today influence somebody else. So I really wanted to say that. And so, as I said, I have started speaking out. So when October 7th happened, I wrote this poem. And it's called Gauze or Gauzen. So the word gauze, you might have seen this online. The word gauze, G-A-U-Z-E, the thing that is used for a medical swab, comes from the word Gaza. It comes from the word Gaza. Maybe because they were one of the first people to use it. I'm not really sure about the origin of why it comes from Gaza, but they must have had a big influence in it being named a gauze. Actually, in Polish, a few friends have told me in Polish is named Gaza, in Portuguese it's named Gaza as well, and maybe in a few other languages as well, the gauze. Okay. Gauze or gauzen, a thin, loosely woven cloth, sometimes silk, linen, cotton or film, used for dressings and swabs, and even for grafted olive trees which have grown since the time of Jesus, who was also a Palestinian, wrapped around the arm of a Gazan child who has barely reached adulthood. Who has barely reached adulthood, but uses olive oil for the wounds on his skin, and sucks an olive pip in his mouth in place of food, and holds an olive branch in his hand in a hope for the future. For even God compares his life to the oil of an olive tree which glows without being touched by fire. Thank you. I'm just going to steer away from the issue of Gaza to talk about something that is very similar. And I wrote this in a very similar light to the reasons that I wrote for the Palestinians. And in 2015, there was lots of big refugee crisis going on. And at the same time, Britain was allowing refugees into the land, and at the same time they were going to war with Syria. So on the day that the British government decided to go to war with Syria, I wrote this poem. And I wrote this note and this poem, and so they're kind of interlinked. I will read the note first. It's called A Note on Refuge. We have all felt the need to take refuge at some point, behind closed doors, in brick buildings, in a lover's arms, under duvets and security blankets. We have all sought safety and security in something, somewhere, in an education perhaps, in a working role, or a book, or in writing, or perhaps even a little piece of chocolate. Or like me, in a sincere prayer to God, or at the bottom of a bottle, or in a cloud of weed smoke. A refugee, a word that humanity has related to since humanity began. We have all felt loss, pain, anxiety, debasement, displacement. We have all been through something that others can relate to, however slight that relationship may be. So let us all agree that we have indeed needed refuge of some kind. And then there came a photograph, a boy's lifeless face down on a Turkish shore, Aylan Kurdi. He captured the world's attention. The photograph spread faster than Aylan's name, but no one can recall the millions of names that have never reached them. Then this one matters all the more. Aylan. Humans are vast in number, but humanity is abstract. Artists made murals. Writers penned poems. Speakers poised tongues, and the press reported. Everyone did what they thought best, what they thought was righteous. Everyone came forward, everybody related, like family, though many discernibly and some distantly. Refugee, a word with more connotations than I can list. Humans are vast, and not just in number, in thoughts and in traits. Evidently, there are no easy solutions to this issue. I would give refuge to anyone who needs it. A single man living and earning alone, I would house 2 or 3. A family if they prefer the cosy intimacy in a crammed flat. But others see it differently. We humans are vast vessels of ideas and ideals. I don't know, and admittedly, I'm doubtful that anybody does know the right answer. Putting your hand up first doesn't make you the smartest. It doesn't even mean that you have the right answer. Everything is so much deeper than the surface. Maybe my views are warped because I believe in God. Maybe yours are because you don't. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that whatever you believe, you should think it through. Whether you choose to see it or not, we are all interdependent. Find humility in this and your place amongst the world, amongst the people who surround you, and keep open. Humans are vast creatures and humanity is abstract. A collective effort to be human nonetheless. Thank you. I wrote that in 2015, and I remember writing that, and I remember the feelings that I was going through when I wrote that. And now we're in 2024, and I'm still feeling them same feelings. I'm feeling them on a much more profound scale. Maybe because I'm a little bit older and I can really have that empathy. And so I'm going to read one more poem to you, perhaps. And so I wrote this poem on the same day, because that poem was about Britain accepting the refugees, especially after Aylan's body was found. That Britain, that was the turning point where the whole world saw an image and decided to make a movement. But at the same time, they went to war with Syria against Assad. So I wrote this. It's called For Sham, which is the old name for Syria and Palestine as well, actually. A democratic elective fastens its butcher's waist. A democratic elective fastens its butcher's apron around an inebriate nation's waist and cleaves its foreign policy on a broken slab of the world. On voting, the ends meet like link sausages, yeses and ayes and yeses, strung out and served to an army of bonny lads in the belly of the beast, forced to feast on a breakfast of black gold and black pudding for their blackened souls. Britain's double hand once claimed a refugee child and placed him on the lip of a Scottish isle. Now her auspicious hands delivers nails into the people she turned her blind eye and coinwood crowned from. The clouds fell grey over Syria today, and not of rain. Droplets of bombs rain, humanity's tears of fire. A picture will show not the life missing its limb, but the sympathizing shoe that it fits. Not the father missing his family, but the gun at his wrist. Not the mother missing her love, but her dusty veil in the heat of this red mist. Just look how bombs have served humanity this far. Thank you. I know that was a lot and quite dark, and I'm sorry about that I gave them images, but I thought it was quite important for me to actually to speak them words out loud, and especially for events such as Palestine. So I'm going to lighten the mood up. You can have one of two. I might just do both for you. I've got one poem about a river and one poem about a dragon. Okay? Do the river poem. So this is a poem that I wrote for a company of mine called, company that I work for called the Super Slowway, and I think they do some great work along the local canalways. And yeah, ever since I've written this poem for them, they've come back to me and asked me many different things. So actually, poetry does have a big impact in the world. If you do something with your poems, people will come back to you, and especially an event like this. I was only invited here because I believe I have some pertinent poetry to give. So this is called Be Like the River. From a mountain top, catch the downpour and flow gently down. Don't stop, you can't stop. Follow the pines as they rise along rich valleys and climb over hills and slip down again by the city where people would gladly pull pails of water from your side. Be like the river and give as a giver. For the water taken doesn't take, and the loss is again, and the waters will come back to fill you, full of feeling. So like the river, go forth fulfilled, and run out into the open, alongside countryside, into suburbs, giving water to all you pass, and follow yourself to the place that you dam, and overflow into a pool or a lake, and lay still in winter freeze, and melt warm in summer heat, and move fiercely in spring, sprung like flowers and ferns on the left bank. Be like the river where men make camp and children play and splash in the waters, and women wade out to fish the fish and to catch the trout and to sift the gold out of the wet folds of earth beneath you, your golden bed. Be like the river where the deer come silently for their morning waters, where wary foxes arrive deep in the night scavenging, and where swallows dip mid-flight to quench their thirst, and wait still as the lions approach and crouch to lap bloody tongues at your surface. With purpose, be like the river, and when you cry, cry into yourself, and when you overflow, let others drink, and when you are heavy with sediment, that of yourself and that of others, you shall know strength, and you will flow still with force out to the sea, out to the ocean, and back to the source. Be like the river. If you want one more poem, I can give it to you. If not, we get off the stage. Because I know you do have some great acts coming back. So, do you know what? My poetry is quite deep, and sometimes it's a bit too heavy for children. So I wrote this poem to really draw children into the idea of poetry and what it can be. This is about my pet dragon. I have a pet dragon. I keep him in my top pocket at all times. He's tiny, but his eyes are wide. They pop out of his sockets like he's looking for flies. Around the clock, he likes to keep watch with hunger in his eyes. He's little and green, the cutest thing you've ever seen, but don't say that to him, because he gets shy and turns pink. He poos and he stinks, but I still love him to bits. If he ever turns red, well, that means he'll have your head quicker than you can get out of bed, because he does get angry, scarier than my auntie, and that's when you can get burned, you see. Sometimes he's burgundy, ready to turn on me. But when his face turns black, he's ready to attack. All you see is a blast, all you see is a flash, and it's a fire and alarm, but you can calm him with a smack. You can calm him with a snack. He's sure to come all back. That was a Freudian slip. I don't talk in this way. But you can calm him with a snack. He's sure to gobble it all back and sit back looking fat. And when he turns gold, he's sure safe to hold, and he'll do what he's told. And when he's purple, he goes inside himself like a turtle and gets all philosophical, colours changing like a chameleon at a carnival. But that's just topical, all tropical. Sometimes he's blue, and that's when he speaks the truth and tells me I'm being a big old brute. But when he's brown, he's nice to be around. You can hear his little purring sound, and place him next to you on the ground, and they say that nothing rhymes with orange, but when he's orange, he's as ripe as a fruit, a good old cahoot, laughing me out my boots, as sweet as a tooth when he's yellow, all mellow, a lovely little fellow, never giving me sorrow. He's all the colours of the rainbow and more. I keep him in my pocket and take him with me wherever I go. Yes, that's my very own pet dragon, and no, you can't have him. Thank you. Thank you. I have been Ajaz Qureshi. I do have a little book of poetry here. Unfortunately, I didn't read any of the poems today, but you're welcome to come talk to me about my book. Thank you.
That was really personal, thanks. It's amazing how you